getting set up, I just want to give you a little preamble of how I arrived at this budget. When I took over as acting city manager, the first thing I did was assess where we were in the 17-18 calendar year on our budget lines per department and local departments. Simultaneously, I was starting to work on the budget where the department had put in budget requests, and I split through all the budget requests, and I decided midway through the process that I was going to try to price out exactly what we have. So my budget, which has been reviewed by the controller, and has been termed reasonable, maintains all of the current city services. So now it's up to the council, based on input from the public, where they want to go with this. But to maintain just what we have, nothing extra, no bells and whistles, is a 12% tax increase. Okay, the process overview. This is the agenda, the process overview, your tax dollars, your tax dollars, current financial status, proposed budget highlights, potential service reductions, and increasing revenues. Your process overview, the budget cycle. This is just very simply that. This is how it starts in January. Department of Budget Worksheets are prepared. They submit their budget. Management and departments negotiate. I tell them they have to cut it. They tell me they can't. Proposed budget is submitted to the City Council on April 10th, goes to the public on April 20th. Then we have public hearings like we're doing tonight. On July 1st, our city fiscal year begins. The taxes. School and county taxes comprise 65% of your tax bill, and city taxes are approximately 35%. Where does that dollar go? 25.7% goes to employee benefits alone. Public safety, police, fire is 20.6. The general government support is 16.3. Home and community services is 9.8. Other, which is interfund risk retention, transportation, economic opportunity, development, education. Recreation is about 8.6, and debt service is 11.3. The financial status of the city. Credibility in the markets. We're going to go out to market next month for $4 million. We have some issues with the last bond being voted down and being moved to a negative outlook that could affect our interest rates. And one of the things that I think is important for everyone to know is when people ask us approximately what will that be, we find out the interest rates the second we go to bond. There's no particular company and we'll go to Apple Bank and get it at X number. It's when you go out to bond, who bid on your bond and what they did. So you don't know until after the bond is authorized. The negative outlook reflects the liquidity challenges the city will have in the near term following years of operating deficit, and city council today to approve budgeted borrowing to pay for the operating expenses. So that will lead us to the stress rating from Moody's as well as from the Controller's Office. City of Long Beach fiscal stress score is now 80.8, which is in the significant category. The controllers cited short-term borrowing, fund balance, and operating deficit. And along those lines of fund balance, due to the fact that we did not pass that $2.1 million bond, which was budgeted for in the budget, we are now $2.1 million short, and I'm anticipating over $3 million hole in the current operating budget that has to be dealt with June 30th. Financial indicators, year-end fund balance, operating deficits or surpluses, cash position. That was one of the other problems we had when the bond was defeated. We were going to run out of cash, so there was a lot of things that were done to offset that so that we keep the cash coming in. We are very fortunate that one of our most profitable months are May because the beach revenues start to come in, so that does help with our cash flow. We have some other, we went on a very, very aggressive going after the people that owed us money to bring in that money. We brought in about $500,000 with our aggressiveness. I'd like to thank Council Agostisi, he was in charge of that project. Fixed costs, environmental indicators, population age and poverty, property values and employment, dependence on revenue from other governmental units, constitutional tax limits, and sales tax revenue, which has been going down year after year. Okay, where are the challenges? Pension and retirement costs. They actually went down this year, but just really not significantly. Contractual labor costs, that's the vast majority of expenses for the city. The city has a large workforce. We provide services. The employee health care costs really jumped this year, and they've gone up 24% over the last 4 years or 5 years. And our debt service, as we all know, has been growing. Budget highlights. Water fund accounts for 7% of our budget. Water is 6%, sewer is 7%, general fund is 87%. The general fund traditionally associated with general government, for example, general administration, public safety, recreation, employee benefits, property tax, license permits, department revenues, and fund balances. The sewer fund is exactly that, and so is the water fund. Okay, property tax. The proposed property tax increase includes 12.36% increase in residential, about $33 per household per month. There is healthcare with a $400,000 increase this year, which is equivalent to 1.09 tax increase. Since 2015, the last 3 years, it's gone up an astonishing 24.2%, costing an extra $2.4 million, which is about 8% tax increase. Behind pension costs, they were stabilized, but it reflects a $190,000 decrease. Debt service, there was a $696,000 increase in debt service, and this is primarily attributable to recent capital improvements, road reconstruction, recreation upgrades, public safety and transportation equipment, and revenues. Certain revenues relate to non-recurring grants and fees, and the standard recovery are reduced in this proposed budget, resulting in a decrease of $2.6 million. In the current budget, there was about $1 million worth of fees in just 2 different categories that didn't come in. So that's where we created the shortfall in the current budget. I was very mindful of that to make sure that the mistake wasn't repeated in this current budget. The proposed budget maintains the same level of services that the public has grown accustomed to by raising property taxes 12.36%. The New York State Controls Review, based on the results of our review, we found that the significant revenue and expenditure projections in the proposed budget are reasonable. Potential service cuts. Long Beach is a unique community. There are very many communities on Long Island. Only 20 of them have a police department, or 19 of them, and then the 20th is Nassau County. On Long Island, there are only 2 paid fire departments. So we, in many communities, don't have their own recreation department. So we are providing a lot of things for our residents and our visitors, and they all come with a cost. So Long Beach provides a unique combination of services that other municipalities do not. They represent a great tax expense to the city and a significant tax burden to residents. We have daycare, healthcare, paid fire department, police department, and special events. Magnolia Child Care Center is a licensed early child care center. It serves infants, toddlers, and preschools aged 6 weeks to 4 years old. Multi-nationalized Germany do not administer daycare services due to the cost and the liability. You're really treading on a dangerous area when you're dealing with infants. The daycare program, the Magnolia Center, does not earn sufficient revenue to cover its operations. We lose about $80,000 a year on that. Healthcare costs. Currently, judges, paramedics, and new union members are the only full-time employees that contribute. The proposed budget includes a $400,000 increase, which is a 1.909% tax increase. And as I said before, 24%, equaling $2.4 million. If active duty members contributed 5% towards the healthcare, that would amount to $350,000 annually, or 0.95% in taxes. It's a little less than 1%. 10% would be $700,000, or almost 2% tax reduction. 15% would be $1.1 million, and about a 3% reduction. Fire department. Fire department is committed to protecting the property, owners' investments, and promoting public health, safety, and welfare to enhance the quality of life in our city. Potential reduction. The department responded to 5,011 alarms in 2016. Thankfully, only 10 of those were for working fires, equaling 0.2% of all calls received. The city began deploying potential methods to improve the delivery of services from LDFD. One of the only 2 paid fire departments, and the paramedics were very instrumental in that because they came in at a much cheaper cost with billing for all of their services. So that does bring in money to the city. Police department provides all types of law enforcement. We're very fortunate. We have a full-service police department from patrol to fully investigative function. The scope of duties also includes a fully functioning traffic division, warrants and identification, training bureau, detectives, and patrol. Last year, the department responded to 18,000 calls in 2017, had 580 arrests, 145 DWI arrests in a 1.5 square mile town, city, and responded to 958 motor vehicle accidents. By the way, we're only one of the few communities that go down in motor vehicle crashes in last year because of all the distracted driving accidents that have been occurring. Almost everywhere else, or an uptick in crashes. Cost efficiency has been enhanced in many ways, including branches of the New York State Department of Justice, NCPD, Nassau County District Attorney. The department has reduced its force size to the lowest level in history. The lowest we were in my 43 years prior to my administration was at 80, and we're now down to 70. We have 2 full-time staff that were reduced. The 10 folks are just recently left. The department is aggressively pursuing technological advances to cut costs, but one of the things that was cut from the capital budget was a whole bunch of technology stuff. So it's the yin and yang of government, of mathematics, that if you're looking to go in a certain direction, find technology to cut your costs, and then you do away with the technology because you don't have money in the fund, and it hampers that objective. Special events. There are many special events that result in net worth for the city. Associated event costs include public works, recreation, police, and overtime. Right now, each of these events costs over $20,000 annually. Summer concert series is close to 50. Irish Day is close to 100. Fall festivals, Independence Day fireworks. We try to offset some of that with sponsorships. Polar Bear is a huge event. You see a ton of city workers out there. Pride Weekend. Last year, Pride Weekend cost us about $150,000, which was fully reimbursable. This year, the governor approved $50,000. So there's going to be a curtailment of the events there. The Michelle O'Neill Volleyball Tournament is a very, very popular tournament, and Family Fun in the Park is another great program that we have in the parks. And it may become a time where we're going to have to ask these philanthropic charities to pay our expenses. Instead of collecting $500,000 for a charity, maybe if they collect $450,000, they offset our costs, and it's a fairer way to go. And then there would be much less reluctance to having these special events, because if you know they're cost neutral. The Corporation Council has prepared a document, a change to the charter, which would actually enact legislation that would make events be cost neutral, or they wouldn't be allowed by law. Increasing revenue. Mr. Arcis, we were thinking about this, but we will give you full credit for it. But one of the things we are looking at is parking meters. Parking meters are a very effective thing, and one of the ideas that I really like for parking meters, and I want to bring it out of this venue, is if you are a city resident and you buy a city parking resident parking sticker that you can use in the West End or East End lots, we would also make that exemption from the meters. So if you buy your parking ticket, you can park the meters. With that, there's a place to bring in money. Pouring or naming rights. I'd love to see, and I'll take a chance on the fans of the minor league team, the Islanders, and say we could look at the New York Rangers ice skating rink, $1 million a year, if that could work. Energy efficiency, smart development, these are all things we have to do. You know, we have to get the People Academy from a tax-exempt school to a taxable entity on our tax roll, a developed taxable entity. Installation of parking in the central business district, fully, and I dare anyone to tell me that they can always find a parking spot in Park Avenue, because I can't. No, gotta wait till the end. So the 50% per hour, the city would see $661,000 annual revenue. I have to charge 75 over $1 million. And this doesn't include the cost of installation, but we have interviewed a number of parking meter consultants, and they do work with them. Pouring naming rights, exclusive rights to distributors by the Showbiz Board, or naming rights to public property. It's a controversial issue, but in desperate times, call for desperate measures. Every city on route should be seen as a potential asset for revenue generating solar panels. There has been a big push by the Fed and the state to subsidize solar energy, so we need to get onto that bandwagon and see if we can recoup some money on that. The city's tax base must be expanded through smart, resilient development. We must adopt a comprehensive plan. We keep doing this. Comprehensive plan and the zoning need to go so we enable growth and we do smart development. Thank you.